Hello, and welcome to Hold the Pass, a podcast all about passing on knowledge, insights, and stories among friends from all corners of the motorsport world. My name is Misha.
And my name is Fatima.
And today we are going to be diving into the world of motorsport engineering. Our guest today is the co-director of the Queens Racing Formula SAE team. She is a champion of women's representation in motorsport and in STEM as a whole, and she is the newest lead engineer of the Radical Academy team in the Radical Cup Canada Championship. Welcome to the show, Lindsay Stroz.
Woo!
Thank you. That was such a nice introduction. Thank you.
Oh my god, of course. Well, no, it's honestly everything that you've done in such a short amount of time. Also, for our guests, you're young. You've done all of this in such a short amount of time. That's incredible.
Absolutely insane.
Yeah. Kudos to you. But before we get into the meat of the show, we always like to start with a nice little warm welcome and ask you, how have you been? How has the beginning of the racing season for you been, or the season so far? What's going on?
Good. We had one race so far. It's kind of July and August heavy. Mm-hmm. So we had one race over the Victoria Day long weekend here in Canada, and it was really, really good. The vibes of the weekend were really amazing. It's easy to say that an all-female team would work, but just like any other team, some people don't get along, some people do get along, but this team gets along really well, and it's just a really good learning environment. Actually, our first day on track, we didn't have any techs. They were traveling, so it was me and the other assistant engineer and a few other girls who were just volunteering, and we had to figure out how to run the car all by ourselves. So it was a lot of learning. I learned how to do my first alignment. So that was really cool, but lots of learning, and it's a really good environment. So I'm really excited about the rest of the summer.
That's incredible. Also, just for, the people who don't know, like me, can you explain what an alignment is?
Well, this one was kind of a micro alignment. It basically, what we were doing was changing the toe, camber, and caster of the wheels. So that's basically the different, your tires have different axes, the Z, mm-hmm. the Y, the X, and these are all terms of how they move. And they're all setup changes based on the driver's comfort, how bumpy the road is. It's different for road courses that are far less forgiving versus actual track courses. Mm-hmm. But the reason we were changing it because we had a new tire composition. So that's another reason to change it. But yeah.
Oh my gosh. That's a lot to learn on the fly, but I guess you have background and experience, so better than Misha and I, that's for sure.
No, for sure.
You definitely go walk through it.
So. Yeah.
I don't think I'd even know how to change a normal tire.
Misha, we have to get you your license first.
This is a running joke on our podcast, is that I don't know how to drive.
Gotta get your license first, and then we'll talk about everything else.
Yeah, I don't know how to drive stick, and it's really embarrassing. It comes up once every race season, and I get blamed for it, so I need to really get on that.
Yeah, some of my friends tried to teach me, and I just failed miserably when it comes to stick. I said, you know what? Maybe stick is not for me.
Yeah, our cars are paddle shifts, and I know how to paddle shift, mm-hmm. but my boyfriend has a racing sim, and I've tried to learn all that, and it's just, I'm too impatient.
That's the thing, right?
Yeah. That's the whole skill set. There's base driving, and then there's actually learning how to sim, and it's
Yeah. Okay, let's rewind it back to, I guess, the beginning for you. So one, I have kind of a two-part question. So the first is, how did you get into motorsport? And then if you could kind of connect that with your degree in, or with you studying mechanical engineering at Queens, and how you ended up choosing that field as your study, and just how it ties with your passion for motorsport as well.
For sure. Well, growing up, I was a really artsy kid. I was always on to the next hobby. I would raid. You guys are from the US, right?
We're from Canada, actually.
Oh, you're from Canada? Okay, so you know Michael's. So I would always force my mom to go to Michael's, and she'd be like, oh my God. And I would spend so much money at Michael's because I'd be scrapbooking. I was really into sewing. I would make my own clothes. I was into crocheting. I actually paid for a lot of my first year of university through a crocheting business I
Oh my
started. So like
gosh.
my parents, my grandparents, everything thought I was going to do something far more artsy. So when I said I was going to go into mechanical engineering, they were surprised. Actually, when I was getting my iron ring, my oldest brother was like, "I'm so happy you did this, but I honestly had no idea this is where you were going." So yeah,
God.
I got into F1 like when I was like 14, 15. It was like right around when Drive to Survive came out, but I just happened to like come across YouTube videos right before Drive to Survive came out, and I'd force my brothers and my dad to watch F1 races with me. But I never really realized I could do something in racing. I didn't really understand the scale and how there's different levels of racing until I put in more research. But how I got into racing was actually like a very distant family connection. My uncle's a doctor, and a doctor he also worked with was starting a race team.
Okay.
And he was very new to the scene, and he was just doing it locally, and he had a team assembled, and my uncle asked him if he'd be okay to call with me. And I wasn't really asking for a job necessarily or like to come along, but he offered after speaking with me. And so I went for a first date. It was like our first day, and it was like kind of like a tryout. But he said I was okay to keep coming along, and they would pay for my like how to get in and stuff.
Amazing.
But I'd volunteer. So I'd show up to every race. I'd stay the latest. And I was kind of just like a general helper. I wasn't necessarily in the engineering role. So I was helping out with like hospitality. I was helping out with marketing. I was helping out with the engineering side. They actually had an engineer who was also a driver. So like learning from him was very interesting. But I kind of just like did whatever that they had available for me to do or would allow me to do. And yeah, so then but any moment I had free in the paddock, I would walk around and I'd introduce myself to people. And I was 17 at the time, and that was a lot of anxiety doing that, but I knew that was how I would continue with racing. And I knew that I loved the environment, and I loved the noise and the smell and like the feeling of walking with the car and everybody looking at you. Like that still never gets old, to be honest. But so I started introducing myself, and there was about 4 other girls in the paddock at the time, and they were all either daughters or sisters of the drivers or the team owners, which there's nothing wrong with, but I felt kind of lonely in that fact, but I made friends with a lot of them, and that's how I actually got my next team. And then an introduction I made in my first year of racing is how I got the job this year. So it's just kind of like spiraled from there. Once you started, like, it's a really small world racing.
That is so true. That is something that Fatima and I are learning as we get more and more kind of embroiled into the industry, is like even people that you think are from completely different parts of the motorsport world somehow have a connection to each other. It is very much a community, which I love. But you spoke a bit about your experience in school, and I know that you've been involved in the engineering side of motorsports for many years, particularly through the Formula SAE team at Queens. So I was wondering, for our listeners who don't know or aren't that familiar with it, can you explain a little bit about what Formula SAE is?
Yeah, Formula SAE is like the best thing any university any university student can do, and that's not just for engineering. I actually was the director of operations, which I was actually doing the business side, and I was helping with the engineering side because it was kind of an uneven workload between me and the other director, so I'd help her out a bit. But I actually really enjoy the business side of things, but before that, I was just like a member on the team. But FSAE is a competition that's put on by the Society of Automotive Engineers. And it's a worldwide competition that you have a full school year to fund, build, manufacture, whatever, design a whole race car. And that's from the ground up. So it can be either internal combustion, so your traditional gas engine, or it could be EV. And a lot of the competitions are transitioning to EV, and that's what my team did. And they made that decision a few years ago.
Mhm.
And for a bunch of reasons, this was the first year we could get a car going. But each year you have to submit a new car, at least the chassis. So the frame of it, you have to build a whole new car. You can technically kind of take everything out and put it in a new chassis, but you want to develop every year. But they can be anywhere from 3, 4, 5 people who really put work in. But the Queens one was about 250 members this year. And so it's me and one of my really good friends, Jolie, were running it this past year. And then we had a team of 13 leads who were both in engineering and operations, and then they had their own sub teams. But yeah, I was in charge of all the finding funding, all of the marketing, and all of the logistics, so competition, all of the school rules and everything. And then I helped out a little bit with the operations side for engineering. But it's like the best thing you can do in university if you want to get automotive or racing, because you go for an interview for automotive or racing, anything, they will ask you what your experience on SAE is, whether that's Baja or Formula, and you will have to tell them, because every person who's in racing and who's in automotive normally has a background in FSAE, at least engineers do. But like, it depends on your school. We have a lot of business kids who are in it too. But I know that some schools don't integrate business students, but I'm really glad we do, because we have a lot of really good talent.
Yeah, that kind of leads into a follow-up question I have for you regarding that. But before I get into that, can I ask what year you're in right now for school?
I'm graduated. I just finished my last classes. I actually, my graduation's in like 2 weeks. So.
Oh my God, congratulations. Let's
That's
go.
so exciting. Okay. The reason I asked that is, were you in your Formula SAE team from your first year up until your fourth year?
No. So I was too scared to join in first year.
Fair.
I went to like the initial meeting, and there was a bunch of fifth year, because we do internship at Queens, or most people do. So there's a bunch of fifth year guys that like were scary, and they were not very welcoming to anyone for that matter. And I was in first year. I was pretty eager in high school, but I was trying to like be cool about it and not like get too involved in first year. Plus first year engineering is like actual hell on earth.
I've heard.
So I decided not to join. I actually filled an application and I never submitted it. You had to design a SolidWorks part too, and I did it and I never submitted it. And then in second year, I'm not sure why I decided to join again. I think I realized that I probably needed it for something. But I joined the composites team. And that's just like doing carbon fiber layups for the exterior of the car, all the aero components. And I chose that one because it was the smallest team, when it was time to pick teams. And I wanted to interact with the least amount of people possible. So I did that, and I ended up like getting along really well with the lead at the time. And there was a member who would kind of float around different sub teams, and he'd do layups with me, and he ended up being the director the following year. So that gave me a lot of confidence, because I knew the director at that point, and I like kind of felt comfortable talking to him. But yeah, I actually had a really bad experience in my third year on the Formula team, me and my friend and it was really bad, to the point where somebody was kicked out, and it was bad. But me and my friend Jolie, over internship, we were like, okay, like, do we completely like let go of it, or do we try and run it and see if, because it's a voted in position by the previous year.
Okay.
And we're like, okay, like, we know we can do it, but we're not sure if they know we can do it. Turns out they did. So they voted us in. And I think that we did a lot of groundwork for a team that has been trying to tread water for a few years. The previous year before me, when I was on internship, they did a lot of groundwork. And I think we made a lot of progress this year. But in my third year, I was kind of on the team, but my friend Jolie and we started a conference. And I know U of T has like a women in formula event. And we were thinking of doing something like that, but because we had such a bad experience with the formula team, we decided to do a whole thing separately. So we created a whole new brand. We had a whole different team. We got ratified with our university, and we created the Queens Women in Automotive and Motorsport Conference.
Oh, wow.
And we ran that, and it's now running to this day. It's going to have its fourth conference in March or February. But that was like something we worked from the ground up. And I think that was a big like selling point to our leadership, because we already showed that we did a project with the school. So we knew kind of the politics of it. And the guys came to the conference and represented the formula team. So I wasn't on the team in first year. I made it.
Yeah. I mean, hey, I have been there where especially I remember my first year of university, I was so scared to join like any clubs because I was like, oh my God. Everyone was just so intimidating. So one, that's absolutely amazing that you and your friend completely just did your own thing, and you guys have built something that's like foundational and here to stay. How does it feel to like know that like you started this and that like the torch is going to get carried on?
Well, Jolie, like we call her Jo, she's like the yin to my yang. I hope she's like tree planting right now, but I hope one day we can work again, because like, like there's like one person, maybe it's you two, but like you just like work really well professionally.
Yeah.
And she's like one of my really good friends, but like we just work really well as well. And that's not always the case. But we didn't really like realize we did anything significant until the day of the conference. Like you're always like head down, like get through it. And I came up for air midway through the conference, and I was just kind of like walking around being like, hey, can I get you anything? How are you guys doing? How are you feeling? And there's these first year girls who were like looked me so intensely in the eyes, and they're like, thank you so much for doing this. And I was like, oh yeah, for sure. And they're like, no, thank you so much for doing this. And I was like, oh, yeah, you're welcome. And I was like, damn, like I might be, wow. Like, I don't know. I think I get this from my parents, where like, just because I'm in a position of like, I got my motorsport job through a family connection. My dad also works in automotive, and that also gave me like a foot pedal or like a whatever lead off to my career. And I will never take that for granted. And I want to be able to help other people with the resources I have. And I also found that during my first internship, there was another woman who was an intern, and people automatically like could only compare us, like not
of
positively. And I was like, I hate this. Like and we ended up becoming best friends because we were like, honestly, F you all. But we became really good friends, and I was like, I never want to like anyone to deal with that. And there's a lot of things that like small things that like aren't that big of a deal in the grand scheme of things. But if I can help one girl not have to deal with that, that's a big deal. And like I'm working with someone right now who she got a job through the conference last year, and like I'm not involved in the conference anymore, but I like some of the sponsors that I brought forward or still have carried through, and we hired the girls who hired the girls who hired the girls running it. And although I'm not directly involved, like I feel a part of like, oh, that's her first internship, and she got it through the conference through a sponsor that I acquired like 4 years ago. And like, I don't know, I'm just like being helpful.
Of course.
And I just want to be the resource that other girls didn't have. Anyways.
That's incredible. That actually leads basically perfectly into another question that we had prepped for you, which is about the Queens Women in Automotive and Motorsports industries. I know that you established it would have been around 2023, 2024?
Yeah.
Can you talk a bit about exactly what it was, kind of like what the vision was and how it came to be? And you've already touched on this a little bit, but like what it means for young women, especially in an industry like this, to have those resources.
For sure. Well, actually, it was during like exam week in second year, and Jo and I lived really close together, and we were friends through class and friends through formula. But I was trying to branch out and have new friends and get closer with people that I hadn't before. So I invited her to go like down to the water and like just like chat with me. We got into like a really deep chat about how like we probably wouldn't have met if it wasn't for like the formula team, but we're like the only two girls on it. And how like we meet girls all the time that say they're interested in F1 or they're interested in racing, but they're like, oh no, I don't want to join the formula team. And like, it's like, there has to be something there because there's so many girls interested in automotive, but they're always scared away, whether on purpose or by accident. And Joe grew up around cars. I grew up around cars. And I think that's a big reason that we're a little less scared. She has brothers, I have brothers. And so like, I don't know, there's the things that add up that like kind of sometimes make you a little bit more rough around the corners versus not being bullied by your brothers for your whole life. Yeah, that makes you a little bit more
character building.
But like everyone's like, oh, you're so tough to be in an industry like that. And I don't want it to have to be like, you have to have thick skin to be in an industry. Like that's just not fair. So we were like, okay, like we should do something, like even it's like a group chat or like something. And Joe and I always take things out of proportion. So we were like, what if we like do this, like an event, whatever. And what if we do it with the formula team? And then we're like, wait, we actually don't like the formula team. What if we do the same thing and make a conference? And I'm like, yeah, that sounds great. Neither of us had been to a conference at this point. So we signed up to go to a conference. So we went to our first and only conference together. And it was like the Queens Women in Engineering Conference. And we're like, so we kind of got an idea of what we wanted to do, what we didn't want to do. And yeah, so we just started planning over the summer and then we figured out how to get ratified. So I did all the branding, all the logo, everything. And then we figured out how to become ratified with the school, with the engineering society. So we did that. And then we hired a whole team of girls and gave them all roles and responsibilities. And by that point, it was still it was like pretty close to the conference date. So a lot of it we just did by ourselves. A lot of the speaker acquisition and like the sponsorship was me, and she did more of like the business, the finance side. And yeah, we just kind of figured it out. And yeah, like some of the feedback we got after the conference, we had some people from one of our sponsors, and she was well into her career. And she was like, this is the best conference I've ever been to. And I go to conferences that people's jobs, their whole livelihood is to plan a conference for a company. And you are like, at the time I was like 19, and she's like, you are two 19-year-olds who planned the best conference that I've been to. But we structured it like we had three speakers, and we didn't want to make it, we didn't want to pigeonhole the engineering side. I'm a very big believer in, you can be an engineer who's good at business, and you can be a businessman who's good at engineering, whatever. Because I feel like engineering, I got through it, but I like more well-roundedness of how things run. But yeah, so we had a businesswoman from Motorsport. We had the coolest lady ever. She's a Queens grad, and she was the CTO of McLaren when they developed the racing simulator at McLaren. And she was Lewis Hamilton's strategist as well. Absolute icon. And so we didn't really want to have people call in because we wanted to be personal, but she called in from the UK. And then we had a driver, Erica Hoffman, and actually her being I met her at a race, and her being at the conference kind of like blossomed our friendship. And then actually she brought an opportunity to me when she was driving. I was her engineer. So that's like just connections and whatever. And then we had two really amazing workshops. One run by Magna, which was one of our sponsors, who did like a resume, and they did like a speed dating with different careers at Magna, which was really cool. So they had lawyers, they had GMs, they had all these different people. And then they did, we had a psychologist from McMaster University come in, and she talked about the psychology of like basically like how to make it as a woman in a field that's not dominated by women. And that was really cool. And I was kind of like, I'm not a very spiritual person. So I was kind of like, okay, like, I don't know how wishy-washy this was going to be. And that was like, everybody turned away from that conference being like, that was really good. Like, I feel like she did some voodoo stuff on that was insane. But yeah, it was really good. And everybody, like, I think learned something. And the conferences follow that structure since then. But yeah, it's my favorite thing that I've done so far, aside from regardless of engineering school, regardless of racing, regardless of FSAE, that was like just straight from me and Jolie's brain.
Yeah.
And it's just like really nice to see that it continues and it's getting stronger and stronger. Like we have to up the capacity every year. And more people are getting involved, and yeah, it's just a really fun time.
I'm so mind blown that you guys even did that. That's absolutely amazing. First of all, the fact that not even like an age thing, because you can do a lot no matter how old you are, but the fact that you guys took the initiative and like made a space where you felt that there wasn't space for, and you guys built it into what it is now. And the fact that you guys were able to get such amazing people to join on, you guys need to work together again, because clearly there's magic there.
Women, most women want to help other women out.
For sure. Yeah.
There's exceptions, trust me. But most women want to help each other out. It's just creating a space to do that. And also checking my own privilege of hey, I had come from a place where I have all these connections and I'm wasting half of them because maybe it's not something I want to do, but that doesn't mean it's not some first year, second year girl's dream to do marketing for a team. And I'm that's not something I'm interested, but yeah, it's all good.
Absolutely. And that's such an amazing mindset to have. I kind of I know that you said you're done school now. And I kind of just want to understand how it was just navigating all of this. So we know that the motorsport industry can be quite spontaneous and it can be quite chaotic and I like to say organized chaos. How do you balance being a full-time student, working, managing your extracurriculars, and still finding time for your social and personal life as well? And how do you avoid, I guess, burnout from all of that?
Yeah, I'm gonna say that I'm normally really organized, and my boyfriend's gonna get pissed off at me hearing this. You burn out all the time. But I'm someone who I'm introvertedly extroverted, or maybe the other way, extrovert introvert. So I need my time by myself, and I recharge by feeling useful, and that's probably a little bit toxic, but I like projects and I like to use my brain. Like I said, engineering was I got through it and it's something that I don't regret doing, but it didn't make me tick in the way that some of my classmates were really into stuff. I was this is cool, but it doesn't involve a car, so I don't really care, which is also not very good. But I just as if I'm interested in something, I will always make time for it. And I will also naturally not make time for the things I'm not interested in. So it's just kind of listening to myself and feeling what I really want to work on and what I don't want to work on. And it's usually school, but I can't drop out of school. Just I love keeping an agenda that's really useful. I'm also just really fast at doing things, and sometimes that gets me in trouble. But it's just kind of some things you don't need to be perfect at, that perfectionist mindset. Sometimes you don't need 100 on an assignment, or you don't need a 90 on assignment. If you get an 80 on assignment, but you have an extra hour or two to do something that you actually like. And that took me a few years to actually figure out and come to terms with. But nobody in my career path, nobody on the racetrack is asking you for your GPA. A lot of people on the racetrack don't even know what a GPA is. But they're asking you about your experience. They're checking your character. They're seeing if you're actually interested in being there and you're taking initiative. And so I focus my time on filling my cup when it comes to socially and project-wise, but also making sure when I'm at things, I'm spending my time properly. If I'm at a networking event, I'm at the networking event. If I'm doing something, I'm doing it to my full ability. And I know if I need a runoff time after, if I need an hour after to reset, if I use all my social battery, then I know myself enough that I need to do that. Sometimes things got really hectic, but my Apple Calendar got me through it. My agenda got me through it. an Advil and a granola bar got me through it. So,
I can relate heavy.
No,
I feel
for
like
real.
that's literally me through school, through life, even right now. I get that 100%. It's so hard because you're so right about not everything needs to be 100%.
Yeah.
I think that can apply to everything and not just grades as well. Depending on what it is, obviously, but I do think that not everything needs to be perfect because nothing really is perfect. And if you have that mindset, you're not going to get anything complete at
yeah,
all,
exactly.
you know?
Yeah. And kind of like you said, like, it's good enough. Like, good enough is still good,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, and like also like if you had people working under you like an FSAE or something, and they came to you with something that's like 100% right, you'd be like, oh, that's great, but you're not expecting them to do it. So like putting that on yourself all the time is not fair to yourself, and it's also not realistic.
100%. And I really appreciate that, especially as like such a young person, you have a very level-headed outlook on life. It's rare, trust me.
Okay, so
It's rare. It's a really, really good thing to have. But at the same time, as we talk to you, I'm kind of getting this like appreciation of your very, very unique perspective on the world. And that kind of
Yeah.
leads me to asking sort of a very, I guess, like engineering-y question. So when it comes to you and kind of problem solving, when you're, whether it's working on a car or something like you were saying with the FSAE team at your school not really functioning as well as you would like it to, when something isn't working, when something is broken, how do you approach figuring out what's wrong and how to fix it?
I think I use a lot of the like business practice that I was taught in internships. Like they use the term KPIs, key performance indicators. And I think about more like the output, like what do I want at the end of this project? What do I want to have to say for a project? What do I want the impact to be? And then I kind of work backwards from that. And like, how do I do that? And then when something's really like big and overwhelming, it kind of just like break it into baby steps. And that's kind of how I get through it. I can sometimes get really anxious about things and get really overwhelmed. But if I take it step by step, then I can kind of like chill for a second. And I like I just got a project at work where I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this. I'm happy that you guys think I can, but I don't know if I don't have any, like, I don't have enough experience. But then I'm like, okay, well, I have to get experience by doing things. And I'm like, okay, like, let me log in, let me stop being dramatic. And Google exists, ChatGPT exists, I need help. It was like a SolidWorks, like CAD assembly that was like more complicated than I've ever done. And I knew I was capable of it and I finished it, but it's not something I did before and it was outside of my comfort zone. So it's just kind of taking it step by step. And I literally took it part by part. And I was like, oh, okay, it's done. And I'm ready to like be critiqued on it. And it ended up being okay. So yeah, it's just kind of like taking a step back. And like sometimes I need to physically like remove myself from a situation, sit down with a notebook or my iPad or something and just like write out it step by step, or have a talk with Jolie, or talk things through with my boyfriend who's also a mechanical engineer, and like just kind of like bounce ideas off each other. That kind of like brain dump really helps me, whether it's on paper with myself or with a person. But yeah, like problem solving, you're only as good as the problems you've solved before. So I just take it on as like okay, this is going to help me in the end. And what I'm still working on is not being embarrassed when I don't know things.
So hard.
Yeah.
It's really hard when, I don't know, everyone tells you like women in STEM and women in any field to be confident. And it's hard to be confident when you don't know what the hell is going on. So it's just kind of also admitting when I don't know something, because it's less embarrassing if I admit it beforehand than if I do something and it's completely wrong. So I'm just kind of like, it's less embarrassing now, so I'm saving myself a little bit of embarrassment, is the kind of mindset that I've been doing. But yeah, problem solving is something that everyone's continuing to work on, and that's kind of why I did engineering. It's not all the like math, although I still like think it's cool and I still like a lot of it, I like more of like the processes and the more like structure of what engineering teaches you, because you don't remember anything by the time you go from first year to your last year. All the technology that you would have studied is outdated, and so they teach you more like theoretical stuff, and it feels really random at the time, but then you'll be at work and you'll be like, oh my god, I learned this in second year and I didn't know this is going to come back and bite me in the butt. But yeah, it's just kind of like knowing when you don't know what's going on and then how to pick the pieces of like understanding. Is that like, I'm really glad I did engineering because it like retrains your brain in a certain way, and I have been able to pass that on to like everything in my life.
That's super cool. It's interesting how that one decision that you made has impacted the rest of, I guess, not just your career, but your life and how you see things and how you work on things as well. And kind of speaking on careers, you made a big jump in your career and now you're the lead engineer for the Radical Academy and the Radical Cup Canada Championship. So how did this come to be? And I guess what was your first impression of the team? And how has your time working with the team and being part of the championship been so far?
Yeah, so I met Phil, who I don't know his title, but he basically runs the team.
Yeah.
And he I met him in my first year of racing because somebody was like, you should meet this guy. And I was like, okay, sounds good. So I met this guy and I got his contact information, but I never used it. And then I was actually the second year of the conference. We had a driver there, and she mentioned that she was working with the Radical team this following year, and she asked me if I had a job yet this summer, and I was like, oh, I don't know. I feel like, because I didn't have a very good first or second year of racing. Like, I honestly was going to quit.
Oh, wow.
And then I was like, you know, like an all women's team does sound like it's probably going to be better. I'll try it out. I'll like contact them. And so Phil was like, yeah, for sure. We'd love to have you. So I was the DAG last year, which is like data and graphing engineer. Mm-hmm. Everyone will tell you different thing that stands for. So, but I was a DAG, and I learned a lot from the head engineer, Igor. So like the Radical Academy team is like under the same tent as Radical Canada, and they're supported by the team. So if we have any questions, the chief, the car chief, and like all the other guys helping are happy to help us. But we try to like be the only ones that are touching the car. But if we need advice, they're there. But yeah, Igor showed me a lot about the cars, because a lot of the telemetry, like the data analysis of the cars, are similar, especially for the driver side. But for the actual cars themselves, they change for whatever cars you're working with. And Radical has its own system called Life. So he taught me how to use that. And there was other engineers and other DAGs there to support. But our driver, she couldn't continue with the season. So we didn't have anyone. It's really hard for people to get their license. I don't know exactly how it works, but, it's really hard to get from karting to cars. You need a certain amount of seat hours in the cars, I believe, to get your full license. So there's not a lot of young girls with their like license yet. So we couldn't find anyone. At least this is what I told. We couldn't find anyone to replace her. So the Radical Academy like car team kind of fizzled out for the rest of the season. So I didn't go, which was fine. I was actually in the middle of my internship. And so it ended up being okay. And then Phil messaged me earlier in the year, and he was like, we want you back. We want to make you the lead engineer for the team, and we're going to give you your own DAG. And I was like, okay. And I just graduated, and I was thinking of maybe traveling. And then I was like, you know what? No, like this will be really good. I really like the girls that were on the team last year, like Jess. She's like our team manager and our media and marketing. Yeah. So sweet. And I don't know. I just was like, you know what, I'll give it a chance. So, yeah, I decided to go back. And so I have my own DAG, who's actually also a Queens engineer, and she was on my Formula SAE team.
Amazing.
So another face that I knew, which was nice. And we had a whole bunch of new girls. We also have a second car. So I'm still learning. Like, I'm like by no means know everything. I still have to bother Igor and some of the other guys a lot, but they also have to do the same thing. So yeah, it's a really, really positive environment. And I'm learning a lot, and also teaching someone, you learn a lot. You realize what you do and you don't know.
Oh yeah.
Like when I was teaching her some of the stuff, I was like, oh my God, wait, maybe I do know what I'm doing. That's cool. But then sometimes I'm like, girl, I don't know what I'm doing. And she's like, you look like you do. And I'm like, okay, fine. But yeah, it's just kind of like being able to laugh at yourself and being able to like admit that like sometimes you don't know what's going on. So, no, I really like the team, and I'm really glad that I decided to spend the summer with them. Like, I'm working a full-time job, and then when the season is over, I'm gonna travel for 6 months. I'm off the clock for 6 months,
as you should.
like, I don't know what's gonna happen.
Oh my Enjoy God. Those 6 months, truly.
No, for real. Do you know where you want to go? Where are you gonna travel?
Yeah, I'm gonna go to Southeast Asia. My boyfriend and I, we're gonna go visit our friends in New Zealand because they're moving there. And then
I'm so jealous. That's my dream.
Visit his family in Australia, and then we're going to Southeast Asia, and then Japan.
My God, I have so many recommendations for Japan for you.
Okay. Yes, go off the clock, girl. Enjoy your trip. Get out of here.
Oh my God, you're gonna have such a good time.
My
you're
God,
gonna have such a good time. But no, also shout out to Igor. You've mentioned him a few times. He seems like a really great mentor for you. But I guess something that I have experienced in my own time, and I'm sure Fatima has too, like and you've kind of alluded to this too, like when you learn something in school, it's one thing, but then when you actually get to apply it, it's another. So I was wondering if there was something from your experiences in school or in Formula SAE that really helped you hit the ground running in with Radical Academy, or if there's something that like surprised you, or like, oh, I didn't know I was going to have to use this.
I think honestly, it's not anything technical. I would say it's like working with people. I did my internship at General Motors, and I was the manager for 30 unionized employees.
Oh, wow.
And that was like actually very intense and it was a very big learning curve for me. I really struggled. But I learned a lot about myself as a manager. I learned a lot about myself as a mentor. I learned a lot about myself as just like an employee as well. And yeah, I think that's the biggest thing that like school taught me, because school also like it's just like you're very independent. Sure, you have group projects, but at the end of the day, like it's kind of everyone for themselves. And that kind of like independent mentality versus like internship versus the team, where it's very teamwork oriented, it kind of like made me realize the difference more, if anything, and realize that some of the stuff that I learned in school isn't really reflective of industry, but it's important that I have a foundation of that. And also to kind of take myself away and be like, okay, that's actually like school is not the most important thing. Like it is when you're in it, but now that I'm graduated, it's not the most important thing. I can say that because I have my marks back and I am graduating. But if you asked me like a few weeks ago, I'd be like, it's really important.
Stay in school, kids.
Stay focused, lock in. But yeah, I think like just like the working with people, trying to diffuse situations, trying to advocate for yourself as well. Working with different people, different backgrounds, different knowledge bases, just kind of that thing that FSAE taught me. Well, like I learned a lot from my internship. I took a lot of that into FSAE, and then I took a lot of that into racing this year because I'm more in like a leadership position, I guess, because I have to communicate with the techs. I have my own DAG. I'm a representative of the team as well, so it's probably mostly that.
Yeah,
that makes a lot of sense. And it is like a lot of these soft skills that I think people tend to overlook end up being some of the most important ones.
Yeah, because it's the difference between you getting a job or not. And I fully believe that. And then at that point, you get the job and then you figure it out. Like, that's
100%.
That's what you got to do. You're not going to get the job because you're the smartest person.
No.
You're going to get the job because you're the most charismatic or the most confident in the room. And then when you get the job, then you figure out how to do the job.
I 100% stand by
and
you
that's
on
what
that.
Men do. And then women,
you know,
don't follow that. And I'm like, girl, that's the formula.
No, literally, like, for us, it's like, you're expected to have, like, super high grades and, like, all of these extracurriculars and blah, blah, blah. Like, come on.
Yeah. No, it's like that stat that's like, if women don't apply for jobs unless they reach, like, 8 out of 10 of the bullet points. And it's
crazy.
Like, no. And then if for men, it's like 3 out of 10 or something.
Like,
and it's
girl,
like,
do the bare minimum and apply for that job.
Yeah. And it's like, yeah. And it doesn't come naturally. Like, it also, like, when you have a padded resume behind you, it is easier to be confident. But, like, it is true. Like, I was just doing, like, orientation and at my, like, new work. I'm back as an intern. Don't ask me how that worked, but I'm just working for 6 months. So
you're everywhere.
I'm in contract and we had intern orientation and no one asked a question except for me. And, like, did I want to ask a question? Not really. Was I feeling confident at the time? Not really. But I asked a question and then somebody came up to me who wasn't even in the room and was like, I heard you asked a brilliant question. And I'm like, see, that's how people talk about you, and that's how people know about you.
They get recognized, and that sticks with people who like you might not even think are noticing. Next thing you know, it's like, oh, Lindsay would be great for this job because she did this and this, and you had no idea, but you were just taking that initiative.
Yeah, exactly. And, like, confidence is hard to like develop, and sometimes people, like, I get a lot of the times that people are like, wow, you're really confident, but I don't really see myself as a very confident person. I'm a very anxious person. Sometimes I really have to hype myself up. But the difference between me and, like, me 4 years ago is I can hype myself up to do things, and I know that I will regret if I don't. And I know that sometimes it's worth the embarrassment, and sometimes it's worth just kind of like going for it and then having to recover after. And, like, that's a big difference that I've noticed in myself, that, like, your next summer, your next career move, whatever, could be the difference of you going up to someone or not going up to someone. So why would you not go up to that person?
Absolutely. That's
100%.
Honestly great advice.
100%. And that kind of leads me to the next question that we had for you as we sort of start wrapping things up on our end. In terms of female engineers in the motorsport industry, what is your biggest hope for the field?
I think we are going to get to a point, hopefully, that it's not uncommon to see a girl anywhere in the paddock. It's not uncommon to have another girl that you've never met on a team. Right now, there's still a good amount of girls in, not as much as there should be in, like, my personal motorsport world. But I've met them all, and I know them all, or I know of them. And if I don't, I know them fast. And I want to have to introduce myself to someone at a racetrack that's a woman. I want to have to wonder who this woman is. I want to have to wonder, like, I want to have strangers around, female strangers around in the paddock. But for engineering specifically, I just hope that, like, girls are seeing other women in those roles, and that's making them go for them. There's a lot of really good examples in Formula One, but racing isn't just Formula One. And although it's great that those women are up there, the gap between that and some of the other fields, F2, F3, F4, I'd like to say that there's not as many women in F1, actually, because it's not shown on screen also. So there's less of a media need for businesses to go that route. And while you can use being like a diversity hire to your advantage a lot of the time, it is like we're trying to move away from that. But I just want to be able to walk into a room and see, like, not a bunch of white dudes. And just like, yeah, I want to meet other girls who I have the same passions that I've never met before. I want to meet people. I want to have a stranger in the paddock.
You know what? I love how you frame that because I actually don't think a lot of people see it in that way. You say it in that way of saying like, I would love to have like another stranger in the paddock because that's so true. Like the fact that everyone knows everyone, it's already like a sport where everyone knows everyone. And then it's like all the women know each other because of how tiny the amount is. So I really like how you framed that a lot. And I guess maybe you've already touched on this, so you don't need to answer, but if you want to, you can. Is there, I guess, one thing in the industry that you would change? What would it be and why?
I think just the accessibility of it. It's really hard to break into, but it's relatively easier to stay around. There's just a huge ceiling for everyone. I just wish there was more resources. I know there's a lot of resources in the UK because racing's huge in the UK and there's like motorsport jobs and stuff like that. But it would be great to see some more resources in Canada. And just for teams to open up their resources more. Like it generally costs them minimal amount to have people there. Sure, sometimes they have to get badges and stuff for them. But even just for a day, for someone to come along to just see how it is and kind of have a trial run would be amazing. Radical Academy does that, but a lot of other teams don't. And Radical Canada does that, but a lot of the other teams in a bunch of different series don't. And I think it's looked upon, like it's like looked past. And I think it's a great way to generate talent. It's a great way to spot talent. And it's also a great way to make the sport a lot more accessible, a lot less scary for people, and actually kind of be able to have people test out what it's like to be at a track or what it's like to be in a role before they're already in it, like a shadow. And I think that does make or break. Like if you don't like being in the paddock, like, and you thought you did, then maybe it's time to reroute. But I think just making more resources and people being more open to younger people, and younger voices in motorsport.
Oh, for sure. And yeah, I agree with that. I actually had the opportunity last year to shadow with the Andretti IndyCar team for a day. I was there was two of us. There was one who I think she went to Mac, and she was also a mechanical engineering student, and she was also on her school's, I guess, Formula SAE team, whatever their version is. And I was doing the social media side. And honestly, you're so right, because it did open my eyes to a completely different world. And that's when I realized, I was like, oh, I like this a lot. And I love being on the paddock. It's something that I didn't think I would fully get the opportunity to do, but like actually being there and like seeing what they do and how it works and just the mechanics of it, a newfound respect for everyone involved in motorsport, truly. And you kind of brushed on this a little bit, but what are your thoughts on the Canadian motorsports scene, especially, I guess, maybe from the engineering perspective or the business perspective even? How would you like to see it grow?
I think a lot of the teams are like family owned, homegrown, and that's like really, really great. But it gets to a point where growth in Canada is capped, and a lot of the bigger teams go to the US. Actually, FEL, which is like what the Radical Academy runs under, like who runs the races, they used to have a sports car champion, and that's one of my old teams. It was with the sports car teams. And like every year that they had it, the teams would get like so big that they would just move out of Canada and they would just go to IMSA or they'd go to a GT4 team in the US. And it's just kind of sad to see that like these teams are developing and then going to the US, because like I personally, that's not something that I like can or like want to do. Like I can't go to the US all the time. And actually, a few drivers are struggling with that, Canadian drivers, where they're getting U.S. opportunities, but they can't go across the border all the time and say, like, I think just like leaning more into like Canadian racing as its own independent thing, and having more of that talent developed, so that instead of drivers having to pick up and go to the US, where we have actual teams here that can grow and develop drivers and engineers and technicians, so that they could make a living out of it, because right now there's very minimal jobs in Canada in racing that you can make a living out of. and B, that you can use as like an actual jumpstart if you wanted to go to F1 or you wanted to go to some like IMSA or something, because right now there's a huge break in between. And I would just like to see Canada to like there, we have enough fans, we have enough interest, but there's not good enough marketing. There's not good enough actual voices. Unless you're in it already, like it's really like once you start following people, it's like a huge like web of like stuff. And you become like, oh, okay, like this race is happening then. But if you don't know what to look for, then it's really hard. And I've gotten a lot of family members and like family friends into racing because they were interested in it, but they just didn't know where to look. So like I'm their resource for that. But like, I don't know. I just want Canadian racing to become like more of like its own thing.
I agree.
100%. 100%. Fatima and I are very much on board with that as Canadians, as, you know, just racing fans. It's something that we're really, really passionate about. And it's so true. You see so much being put into other locations.
Yeah, like even we have a race in Trois-Rivières, which is between Montreal and Quebec City, and it's like I low-key had never heard of it before racing, but like the whole city shuts down, and like everyone in Quebec is at this race, and it's so lively. There's like kids, there's adults, there's grandmas and grandpas running around, like. It's like there's so much like love and heart into it and it's like, and some of it is like truck racing it. Some of it is like random race circuits that you would have never seen unless you were from like some random county.
Yeah.
And it's just so fun. Like everyone's there to have fun and because they love racing and they shut down the whole city. Like it's through the town and it's like, that's so fun. And it was still by far one of the most, I've been to the Montreal Grand Prix and it was more fun than that.
I can imagine.
And I was working the whole time.
So, okay, like, Fatima, add another race to our list.
But like, it just goes to show the fan base is here. The fan base is here.
It is. It for sure is. And like the talent is also here. With schools like U of T, with Waterloo, there's so many talented people coming from FSAE teams who are facing or not, or who are facing the decision of like, do I take a job that I don't feel is actually worth my talent in Canada and gets paid less, or do I go to the US and like sell myself out basically? That's actually like a really, really real decision that I know hundreds of new grads are making to this day. And it's just not for automotive as well. But a lot of it is automotive, and it really sucks because you want to have a career that you're passionate about and that you love to talk about and that you love to be involved in, but you also don't want to live in a place that you don't want to live in, or you don't want to move countries. Like
you shouldn't have to.
Yep.
US or anywhere. Like I would love to work on an F1 team, but like I don't know if I'm ready to move to the UK. Yeah. And like, or I had the opportunity to. So it's like I just wish that we had our own, and that's like a whole other
trust me, I know.
Conversation. But there's such an opportunity for more industry for motorsport here. But I just don't think people are taking full advantage of it and not putting enough time or money or like
100%.
Absolutely.
100%. And honestly, I think you're right. Like we could do an entire follow-up episode just on Canadian motorsports.
Yeah, this is fun. We should do this again.
Honestly, we'd be down. We would be down. Like Fatima and I love talking about this kind of stuff. So we might actually like if you're up for
after
it,
you're back from your 6-month trip.
Yeah, we'll let you have a break.
I'm gonna be like, hey guys, I'm gonna be like so chill. I'm like nothing matters.
Like everything is good. Everything is golden. I actually really like that you brought up the Canadian talent pool and all of the students that are so passionate about motorsports, because that leads me to our last question. Promise this is the last one for you. It's a two-parter. So with your experience in a student-led team, as well as in a series like Radical, I was wondering if you could comment on something that student-led teams can learn from larger teams like those that compete in Radical, and then vice versa. What is something that larger teams can learn from student-led series like Formula FSAE?
I honestly think race teams could learn a lot from FSAE. FSAE is so like well-rounded when it comes to like you're not only designing a car, you're building it with whatever resources you have, and you're also coming up with the funds to do so. And that like mentality of like every penny makes a difference, trying to use your resources is really huge. And I think like a race team like Radical could take advantage of all the talent that like there's so many people on FSAE, or at least Queens FSAE, and they have so much to offer. They might be in first and second year, and they might not have actually anything physically on their resume to offer, but they have so much tenacity and like that grind to come into the shop and learn and do whatever. And I think the best engineers, the best technicians come from people who want to just be there and learn whatever they can. And there's a few students that I have on the top of my head who would be amazing technicians, but they're not, or engineers or whatever, but they're not in that scope, or they haven't been given that opportunity. And I think race teams should consider FSAE students a lot more. And then the other way around, I think it's really easy to get obsessed with the nitty gritty in FSAE. And I think it would be wise for some students in FSAE to take a step back and remember the whole project and the whole idea, because a lot of the bigger things actually get left behind in FSAE, because there's a lot of very talented engineers looking at very small and detailed parts of their car. They find it hard sometimes, or I found it that it's hard for them to take a step back and consider the project as a whole thing. And that includes budget, that includes operations, because that is how businesses work, not even in racing. And I think that's something that FSAE teams could really use to their advantage, is like hiring and training their people to be more business oriented rather than just choosing the best engineer, as well as hiring people who are really good leaders. That's something that we really focused on in our FSAE team, and we still built the car. We might have not hired the best technical people that were for the job, but we did hire the best people, and gave them the resources to be able to build a full car. And I think we wouldn't have gotten that full end result if we hired the best technical person who was not a very good person. Because you can build your system, but if you can't collaborate with other people and you can't lead a team to help you do it, then there's no building a car and there's no building your system. So yeah, I think that's some things that they can learn from each other.
No, I think that's great. I think for both parts. And I do think you're right about like bigger teams, not just Radical, taking a look at smaller teams, student-led teams, because that's the next generation, right? So it's better to
they do involve a lot of young people. I will give like Radical Canada a lot of credit. The owner, Robert, he gives people chances all the time, and that's something that I've noticed while I'm on the team, and I appreciate and respect. That he is like, well, if they want to lock in, I don't care if they're 17, 18, 19, like they're locking in, and he'll trust them if you give him a reason to trust you. So I do really appreciate that about the team, and it makes me want to work on the team because they're giving chances to people.
Which is absolutely amazing. And Lindsay, that is all that we have for you today. Thank you so much for joining us. Honestly, you were so insightful, and it was just like really amazing listening to you speak, and the knowledge that you have is absolutely amazing. And we really do appreciate you taking the time to come speak with us today. And so before we let you go, would you be able to let our audience know where they can find you? The floor is yours.
Yeah, for sure. LinkedIn and my Instagram, Lindsay Goes Racing, is a really good way. I try to post kind of like what I'm doing and what I'm up to. So yeah, Lindsay Goes Racing, LINDSAY. And then yeah, my LinkedIn is just Lindsay Stroz, STROZ. and I will connect with you. And yeah, no, I love if anyone out there is looking for some sort of advice or some sort of career in my scope, then I'm happy to meet with people and like give them resources, because that's something that I've developed a whole library of things that I would have done or I wish were there when I was younger. So yeah, if anyone needs anything, be happy to chat.
That's amazing. Thank you so much again. And yeah, we hope you enjoy the rest of your evening, and we will talk to you soon.
Yeah, this has been absolutely, absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
This has been the Hold the Past podcast. I've been your host, Fatima.
And I've been your host, Misha.
And we've had such a wonderful time with Lindsay today. She was absolutely amazing. And it was just so wonderful, like getting into the brain of an engineer and like seeing how their mind works. And like, she's like half engineer, half businesswoman, half everything. She's just so well-rounded, and it was so wonderful to have her. And we really enjoyed it, and we hope that you did too. If you liked this episode, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And please don't forget to share as well. You can find us at Instagram and TikTok at Hold the Past Pod, and anywhere you listen to your podcast from. And if you'd like to reach out to us, if you have any questions, if you have any ideas of videos that you guys want us to cover, or think topics that you guys want us to cover, please don't hesitate to reach out to us at holdthepastpodcast@gmail.com. Thank you all so much, and have a wonderful, wonderful day. Bye.
Bye.